Welcome back to the Triple H podcast. Happy Hour Hoops. Little weekend edition. Just me and Jake on here today, but we are in the thick of it.
All good. You're good. You can hear you, Dunny. I can hear you. You're looking at my message right now. Oh no, Dunny, are you there? Dunny! This is what happens. We're on Saturday time. We're trying to get this out here, and the mic is like, "Why are you guys here? What are you doing?" Try your settings on the thing, maybe on StreamYard. We're here to break down, as it says, Game 7 tomorrow in Boston. Nuggets, Lakers, and Heat advancing. Dunny, I thought I heard. Yeah, there it is. We're back.
This is what happens when Happy Hour. Yes, this is what happens when Happy Hour Hoops tries to record on the weekend.
It's not Happy Hour. What the fuck?
Yeah.
We are not set for this.
We caught ourselves off guard. I think it's because I'm wearing a hat this show. I never wear hats on the pod.
That is a little – it threw me off a little bit. I'm not going to lie. When I saw you on the stream with a hat, I was like, oh, shit. He's changing it up. But that's the vibes we're getting today. Yes. I'm in a different spot. But look at this. This is for you, buddy. That light is green.
Oh, hell yeah.
That's what we're here for right now. I also had to wear my Ultimate Warriors shirt today, just as I did leading into game 1 of Lakers Warriors after a wonderful Friday night here. But we'll get into all that. Donnie, how are we? We're here. We're ready to roll now.
Yes, we're good. Mike wasn't working at the top, but we're back. Ed, you alluded to it, man. We are just in the madness of the playoffs. Second round.
Yeah.
We're getting bounced. The conference finals games or series are starting to get shaped up. We saw the Lakers eliminate the Warriors last night. Knicks also on their way home. But I want to pose you a little question here because we saw the Suns and Warriors both get eliminated in round 2. Obviously, tons of star power on both those teams. In your opinion, whose second round exit was the bigger disappointment, the Suns or the Warriors?
Ooh, this is such a great question because they're both massive disappointments, right? Like from what the expectations were even before the season. Like the Suns, even before the Kevin Durant trade, were one of the favorites in the West, like a favorite pick among analysts to go to the finals. And then when they added Kevin Durant, they really were the favorite. I still think it's probably the Warriors, though. I mean, the Suns, we knew the Suns had the toughest matchup. Like the Suns playing the Nuggets. The Nuggets might just win the title. The Nuggets might be the best team. I don't think anybody really is going to talk about them with the whatever 4 teams end up left as the best team remaining. But when you look at it just on paper and on the court, honestly, they've looked like the best team all year long, and they might just be better than everybody else right now. And that could be what ended up happening to the Suns. They just because Booker and Durant were playing amazing, and they might have just ran into the buzzsaw. The Warriors really there's no reason they couldn't have been in Game 7 with the Lakers or been more competitive in that series. Clay was horrible last night, and he was pretty bad in Game 5 too. Poole was just a mess all series. Like you could tell his head wasn't there. There was all the rumors about it in the first round that he was one of the guys complaining among Kuminga and others about playing time and such, and maybe that seeped over into the Lakers series. And LeBron, you've been able to tell in the past when LeBron's concerned about a series, especially when it comes to the Warriors. The Lakers never seemed concerned about this series.
No,
once. They all sounded so confident the whole way through, and that's just the thing about the Warriors is where do they go from here? This last year might have been the last hurrah of this version of the Warriors, and everybody thought they could replicate it this year, but it might have just been last year, and then they just got beat, man. They were just not as good as the Lakers. And if you would have said that in January would anybody have believed it? No,
Yeah.
not at all. So
No one would. No one would even believe that the Lakers would be in this spot if you asked them in January.
They'd be like, "What are you talking about? You're a Lakers homer. Like you're LeBron, whatever. Like the only way you would actually think that. I didn't even think that. Like I was not. We were all counting out the Lakers. We were like, are they going to make the play-in? Like what's going to happen here? And here they are,
eliminating the Warriors. Yeah, man, I'm in agreement with you. I didn't know which way. I think both teams, the Suns and the Warriors, are pretty big disappointments for getting bounced in the second round. Just the guys they have on their team, and kind of like you said, I mean, the Warriors are reigning champs, so you expect them to have a fight and put up more of a fight in that series. I'm with you. They Lakers never looked concerned, and the Warriors really didn't give them a reason to be concerned. And then the other guys, the Suns, I mean, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, obviously the injury to Ayton, the injury to Paul put them in a really bad spot.
Which, did you see George Karl's tweet about Ayton?
No.
You didn't see that? When Ayton got reported that he was missing game 6 with the rib contusion, it was just one word quote tweet from George Karl, weak. And that's a crazy thing to say. And George Karl, like, noted hard ass, like he's not a player's coach by any stretch of the imagination. But a rib contusion doesn't sound like an injury you really should miss an elimination game for.
Yeah.
Like, to be fair, and maybe who knows how bad it is. And I've said this how many times. I'm always on the side of the athlete, generally speaking, when it comes to any of these things. But I don't know. It was just crazy to see like George Karl just openly called DeAndre Ayton weak.
Yeah, it's crazy because obviously, you know, for those who don't know, old head coach of the Denver Nuggets. I mean, where is he been, bro? He hasn't coached him.
He was on ESPN for a minute, and then I think he left ESPN a couple years ago, and I think he just he pops on some podcasts, and then I think he just tweets all the time, because I do see George Karl tweets like a decent amount, but I've never seen like an attack on a player like that. And it was just like, whoo, George.
Strange.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the Suns, right?
Right. You know, as rude or as unfair as it may be, it kind of sums up the Suns series. And
just imagine if they picked Luka instead.
I know, man.
It's really all it comes down to, man.
I saw a video the other day of just the Suns, someone going through the Suns draft picks, for the first round draft picks from like 2014 on, and man, have they had so misses. Like Mikal was their only scorer, and obviously they traded him for Mr. Durant. And you know, that's just kind of what they got. I feel like they had the few unfortunate injuries, but they traded away all their bench assets and role players and guys who could step up in this situation for Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, you know, pick your poison in that sense. They went all in, came up short. Obviously, you know, getting to matched up with Denver is a tough task and a tough ask to win. And Denver just looks like the better team most of this series. Obviously, Suns tied it up 2-2. Looked kind of interesting. Even if they were somehow able to stretch this series any longer, I don't think they could have got it done without Ayton.
Yeah.
So,
well, they got a lot of work to, like, here's the thing about that trade is that this is year 0 of the build, right? Like, it's not like they made a functional change to the foundation of their organization mid-year and then tried to win a title after it, and they didn't win. And now they can now they have the summer. There's so many more options in the summer that Phoenix is going to be a destination for any minimum free agent, any vet free agent who might look to take a cut. Hey, you want to go live in Phoenix, which is a great city to live in, and you want to come play with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker? It's not going to be a hard sell to rebuild this roster, because that was the biggest problem with them, right? Like, their bench depth after the Durant trade just was lacking, and they couldn't really help support those two stars who were playing, I mean, damn near at the top of their powers. In game 6, you could just tell they ran out of gas. Like, they just didn't have anything left in them to get up for that game. And how could you blame them? Because they were just carrying, especially Booker, who went like 2 games with missing like 4 shots or 9 shots, whatever it was, like 34 for 43, I think he was. Like, just something crazy. Like, that's unheard of. You can't keep that up.
No. And it was super sad in that elimination game, bro. Just like watching that third quarter when Booker and Durant were still in, when they were down, like on the verge of being 40. Down 30. Yeah. And it's just like, oh no, man, like, this is just like, you have to, because, you know, when is the good time to put it in the backups in an elimination game? There never is.
No.
but you have to do it at some point. And those last like few minutes, Durant and Booker were still in there. It was just like, damn, this is sad.
And that's why I love Book so much, because he was still like running for loose balls. Like he was like being a dog defensively, like just he was doing everything. And it's unfortunate. I know those guys are kicking themselves, but really like they're going to build around. They're going to get some free agents that we don't expect them to get just because they're that team this year. And they're going to be very well built going into next year. I have no doubt. The real biggest question is going to be, what do you do with Chris Paul? And how much can Kevin Durant hold in age 34? That's really what it's going to come down to more than
I guess Ayton too.
And Ayton's a big thing. Yeah, I guess they might have to just trade Ayton.
I was going to say, you might not have to go free agency route. Maybe just trade Ayton for some assets.
I mean, it just doesn't. He's not happy there. Clearly, he tried to leave. He tried. So I think big changes are coming for Phoenix, but I think they'll be better, at least on paper, better set up after next year. The Warriors, though, they're fucked. Draymond's going to leave. Clay, what you saw from Clay, he got tired too. Like he obviously couldn't carry the second scoring load for them. Wiggins came back and he was awesome, but really, I mean, it probably hurt that he wasn't back, before the playoffs and anything. Yeah. And they really didn't get what they needed to out of Kuminga and Poole. That's what it comes. And that's the scary thing is now you have Steph's going to be 36 and you don't really have, who's the next guy on this team? Who's like the whole idea when we were giving them credit last year for threading the needle was that Poole and Kuminga and a Wiseman maybe would be able to carry them to the future. Well, Wiseman's gone. Kuminga couldn't get run in the playoffs and Poole looked horrible. So they have a lot of answers or a lot of questions that need to be answered this summer.
Poole looked really bad last night, man. Yeah. They showed that graphic right before the half, and then I think this is what he went into the half as. But he had played 12 minutes in the first half, 0 points, 4 fouls, just really giving them nothing. And then, like you said, Clay had one good scoring game, but other than that, he was pretty bad in the series as a whole. And I think a lot of this is a testament to the Lakers, but it is crazy when you think about what this team, this is probably the most consistent team we've seen over like the last decade as far as keeping their core together, staying successful, and that could all change this summer because we have no idea about Draymond's future with this team. Poole now, obviously, like you pay the guy, but it's tough because you're sitting on that and he really didn't give you much. And then, like you mentioned, another year older for Steph and Clay. Wiggins, what do they do
Wiggins might be the guy next year. Legitimately, like Steph's always going to be the guy, but Wiggins might need to be like a legitimate.
Might have to play through him more.
He might have to be like an All-NBA candidate. Like he might have to be like, for them to be successful, he might have to be a top 20, top 25, top 15 guy where he's going to be considered for that. Can he do that? I mean, maybe now is the time that he can do that in his career. But I think that's the big shift too, is like Wiggins and Clay are going to have to switch roles. Clay's not the number 2 anymore. And like he can get there. He can have nights where he looks like old Clay, but it's not consistent enough. And you're losing so much defensively by having him like be that second offensive option that I think you need to put less run on him and use him in more of like a reliever role when you need him to carry big scoring loads rather than being like the full-on secondary scorer. And I think Wiggins, they wanted Poole to be that guy, and I don't think Poole's that guy. And so maybe Wiggins is that guy. And Wiggins will be here the whole year, hopefully next year too. So that will be a big change for them, for the second half of the season and everything else. But they got the big question, you're right, is this Draymond and Poole? Like what's going to go from there? But you want to talk? Can we stop talking about these other teams? Can we talk about your basketball team?
Let's do it, man.
So I haven't talked to you. Jesus, I don't even remember the last Celtics game we talked before. I think it had to have been last Thursday, maybe before Game 4, even before the second. No. It had to be after Game 4 because on our banner here it says the James Harden legacy game again, which would have had to have been after the James Harden.
Yeah, but that was just me and Steve. So this is the
that's right. I just set it up for you. I wasn't on there. That's right.
Yeah.
So it's not since the first James Harden legacy game have we talked about this series in depth here.
I know this series has felt like years, man. It's
It really
well, it's
has.
funny because like there's been so much drama and like all the other series have felt long as well, but like here they are ending in like 6 games and then it's just still Philly and Boston going on.
Mhm.
And here we are. We're game 7. I think many Boston fans probably didn't anticipate a game 7, but I feel like a lot of people around the league and other fans of different teams thought this is a series that could go 7. And that's the case for all the marbles. Sunday, tomorrow, Mother's Day, and it's been a wild ride, man. I think deep down I was just trying to reverse the curse last game, but I really wasn't going into that game all that confident.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, just like it was hard to be. Just you couldn't have played worse the game before. Harden has already had 2 monster games. Embiid looks like his knee's not bothering him at all at points of the games, and it just didn't feel great. And obviously, Tatum, one of the craziest
Well,
superstar games we've
oh
ever
my
seen.
God, man. Like, see, here's the thing is game 6, I didn't get to see most of the first half. Well, I started watching like 5 minutes left in the second quarter. So I didn't get to see most of like the Tatum, like at least the start of the Tatum, like where basically I saw tweets like, is this guy drunk? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Like the only explanation. So I didn't see some of the crazy plays at the start of that game, but you could just tell like the thing about him is there was never a point in the game that he stopped, like got out of his rhythm or routine. So like he never, like he was still taking all the shots he would usually take. He's still taking the drives. He was doing everything. It was just like when he did it, it was like, what the fuck are you doing, man? Like what is happening? And then that fourth quarter hits, and who knew Jason Tatum could have a Lonnie Walker performance? I mean, I never would have expected that, but he just put the team on his back. And it was the first half of the quarter where he starts hitting shots. You're like, okay, like at least he's getting going a little bit. But at the end, when he just takes over like that, and all of a sudden the Celtics are up 8, when it was like, you're like, this is gonna come down. Like I was expecting that game to be like, this is gonna be the most nerve-wracking ending. Like it's definitely gonna be last shot, like tie game. Someone's gonna have to go up and try to make a big shot. And Tatum was like, we're just not gonna get to that point.
Yeah. All of a sudden, the last 2 minutes, like I didn't have to sweat it, and I literally thought it was going to be possession for possession. I'm fighting for my life, and Tatum just does his thing. But yeah, it's interesting you said that, because it really was just him. Like he wasn't trying to reinvent the wheel. He was taking his shots when he was open. He was driving like he usually does. He wasn't really getting, I think the whistle that he was expecting. A lot of like weird turnovers on layup attempts too from Tatum in that first half. And then just the confidence in his own shot. Like the shots he was hitting too were very difficult, especially the first
hard.
2. The first 3 in the corner when they were
over Embiid too.
Yeah, they were down 2, so that got them their first lead of the fourth quarter. Put them up 1. Over Embiid didn't have any space to move because he's in the corner and just shoots right.
It was a
over
horrible
him.
shot. It like it was,
yeah.
And with the game he was having, you're like, holy fuck.
I was gonna say, especially someone shooting 1 of 14, like anyone else pulls that up with the game on the line. You're like, what are you doing, man? But like you said, he stayed confident. He didn't change anything up. And then, obviously the next possession, step back over Maxey. And then he hit 2 more threes down the road in that quarter. And it was something special, really.
It really was. It shouldn't be understated. Like there's not many guys that can pull themselves out of that moment, like struggling that much. The team is down. You're facing all the factors that I'm sure was going through your head and every Celtics fan's head during those couple last minutes of that game. And for him to still be that confident and be able to hit the shots too is something very rare. Like it is something that should not be just overlooked. It's something that a lot of guys apparently except Lonnie Walker. I'm joking, but kind of half joking. That's how amazing Lonnie's performance was that night too, because these things you don't generally score a 60-point pace in a quarter. Like, especially in the fourth quarter of a meaningful game. Like you have to have something, you have to have that dog in you, like the simplest way to put it. And that was it.
Yeah. And it's crazy because, that's kind of been the talk of the playoffs for the Celtics. And people have been questioning, almost every game. Like, does Jason
Every
Tatum
game.
have that dog in him? Like, it seems like something's missing. Does he want to be the guy with the ball in his hands at the end of the game?
Yeah.
And he proved it in game 6. And it's crazy because, and I thought of it this morning, Stephen A. Smith talking about the New York Knicks, calling RJ Barrett pathetic because he, in like 32 minutes, he hit one shot or something. And I was like, Tatum was a few minutes away from that happening to him, but way worse. Like, imagine Tatum ended that game with one field goal made and the Celtics got sent home.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. It would have been a discourse that I'm not unfamiliar with. It's the LeBron. It would have been the LeBron starting the LeBron stuff. Like LeBron when he lost to the Celtics after that, it would have started with that with Tatum. Exactly that. And that's the type of performance that stays with you for a while. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I was like getting fearful for having to listen to that for a whole summer. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to handle this. Thankfully,
isn't that the worst? Like, that's the worst part, is because I can relate to that so much. Like the 2011 finals, the JJ Barea finals. Like, you're sitting there watching your favorite player like struggle, and you're like, fuck, like this sucks because we're losing, but this also sucks because this guy is coming up short in the biggest moment, and everybody that's ever said anything to me about this, that's ever argued with me about this, just has like they don't just get ammo, they got like a fucking M16 launcher on their shoulder all of a sudden now, and are like, what are you saying about Jason Tatum? Game 6 Philly, and you're like, I got nothing, bro. Like, I am blown into smithereens now. So it is a nice feeling to escape that. It's on, and now you didn't even get that. Now you got that. Instead, it turned into, I have this now. Great win. Regardless of Sunday. I mean, Sunday obviously want to finish the job, but the fact that team, if you would have lost that game, you were going to feel a lot worse than if you lose on Sunday. That's for sure. I think that is like without a doubt. They've gone down fighting at this point. Like, they have gone down, scrapped again from the brinks, like they did last year, and at least have given themselves a chance at home. That's all you could ask for. And last year it went well. Like, we went into that game super nervous last year. I remember talking about it, and I remember like getting all set up to watch it. My girlfriend told me that she's like, I'm not watching this again with you. You were too crazy nervous last year, so you're welcome. That's how I was during Bucks game 7. But they handled it. Yeah.
And so, two more things for me on this game and series. The game, like the Celtics forcing a game 7, as far as scenarios go and the way it happened, couldn't be any better because they literally...
Everybody thought they were dead.
Yeah, they were going into Philly, must win. Literally, I think they played their worst game of the whole series last game. 18 turnovers, I think they ended with. Smart was your leading scorer. I think he finished the leading scorer, but he was doing everything for you, which... I love Marcus Smart. I trust Marcus Smart. He is my point guard. But throughout the years, it usually wasn't a good sign when Smart was carrying our offense. Yeah. That's just kind of been a trend. We don't win many games when that's the case. And that's how it was going. Outside of Brogdon, no one else was really making shots. And then all of a sudden, Philly stops playing. Embiid stops getting his looks. Harden starts turning the ball over. And now we're headed back to Boston for game 7 when all the momentum is with the Celtics. And the Jays, neither of them have really had that statement game yet. So it's like, what better time to go back home, if either one of these guys could have a 40-point game and just send Philly walking. And they haven't done it yet. Tatum has his stroke back, apparently. Like...
I'm hammering that spread so hard tomorrow because this is what we're talking about. Everything you're saying is exactly what I was thinking. Tatum, Brown, they both haven't had a great game together yet. We're waiting for one of those. Like, if they get a 30-30 night, that would be amazing. It's also Doc Rivers and James Harden in a game 7 on the road. And I've seen this story so many times. I've seen it so many times. If we're wrong, if they figure it out and that's their triumphant moment, then they have overcome literally a whole career and lifetime's worth of disappointments, and they deserve that. Like, that's what it comes down to. But otherwise, they are just who we thought they were, and this is what they do, and they've already started to do it. And that's the thing about that game 6, like you said, Boston was not playing well. Philly was just fucking up too. They were
Yeah.
giving that, like, they should have stepped on Boston's throat when they're throwing 18 turnovers. You should win that game by 12. Like, if you're a good team, that's
18
crazy.
turnovers, and you're the superstar
And
going
your best-
up against
yeah.
starts 1 for 14. Like
Yeah.
it really was.
Dire.
I mean, that's the closeout game for them. That was the closeout
That's it.
game for them. And now, like, you kind of have to hope and pray if you're Philly. That being said, all the nerves for tomorrow. I think.
Oh, yeah.
We've already seen enough that this series is so crazy. The two things that I'm most confident in going into the game is that I can't see or imagine a world where the Celtics lose 3 games at home in a series when they have this much talent. And they've already lost 2. So I just feel good about that alone. And then the second thing is, we've said it in a few individual games, and we've said it in past years, and we talked about it going into this series with Embiid being banged up. If it goes 7, and we saw it at the end of Game 6, he looks fatigued, and it's something that could catch up with him. It's something that I think may have caught up with Harden as well. You play a guy who's 38 years old and PJ Tucker every night for big minutes. I'm sure it catches up to a guy like him. So, the youth that sides with the Celtics, that could show up in Game 7 as well. Those are the two things I'm looking out for. Last thing I want to say on this series and game, I want to give my guy Joe Mazzulla credit, because he is someone who's been getting dragged through sports media everywhere. Everyone is talking about.
I am one of the people who has dragged him.
I think some of it's deserved. I think there's times early in this series that he was just really bad, like timeout management, which shouldn't be something that we're criticizing coaches for in the playoffs. But he wasn't doing the best with it. And then, maybe he waited a little too long to make that Rob Williams adjustment that we saw last week or last game. But something I will say about Joe Mazzulla, because he has been getting dragged and no one's really giving him credit when he does something good. He's doing the whole thing where you never get too high, you never get too low. And I think Game 6 was a perfect example of that. He talked about it after the game. He stayed trusting Jason Tatum. It'd be foolish to take him out, and he didn't. And, we have the result there. He's not getting too amped up after these victories that we've pulled off in Philly. And he's staying, he's a guy who practices martial arts. He meditates, and it shows in his coaching style. Sure, he may have made a few mistakes this series and maybe even last series, but he has kept this team even keeled, and it's definitely a reason that they're in this spot and they have a chance to take Game 7 at home. So shout out for Mazzulla for, kind of being him and sticking to his ways, even if he was getting dragged through the mud all week.
Yeah, it was a great win all around, and he can't control turnovers, he can't control that stuff, but he can. Exactly what you said is he needs to be steady. He needs to be the guy that is like, listen, this is the game plan. This is what we need to stick to. If we do it, we will be successful, and that's what he's been all along. Stay the course, all that stuff, and that's what they've need. They have Boston only gets in their own way. Like your Celtics can only beat themselves. I relate to it as a Bills fan, as I discussed that almost after every game last year with friends and family. The worst enemy of the Buffalo Bills was themselves. The worst enemy of the Boston Celtics are themselves. They should win the NBA Finals. They will only people that will stop them from doing that is themselves. And Game 7 will be the biggest test of that medal. To see where they're at with Philly. They've had a mental advantage over this team for years. You would think that they feel very, very confident going into home Game 7 tomorrow at 3:30. It's going to be absolutely electric in there. We know what that atmosphere is going to be like and sound like at the TD Garden. So it's a tough ask for Philly. It really is. But the one thing I am interested in, too, beyond this, is both these teams are not happy that we didn't even talk about Miami, New York yet. And both of these teams are not happy that Miami is the team waiting at the end, no matter what.
Yeah.
For both different reasons. But it's just crazy that it's the fucking Miami. Good shout out to Bill Simmons, who called them the zombie Heat. And I talked a lot of shit on here. I was like, the Heat are done. There's no way. There was a way. There clearly was a way. And I also hate the Cavs. Like, I'm officially in I hate the Cavs mode, because this is ridiculous. There's no reason the Cavs should not be sitting there waiting for either of these teams the way this playoffs is broken down. So Kobe Altman, fuck you, buddy. That's what I have to say.
I agree with that. It is crazy that this is just how that side of the bracket in the East shaped up. Obviously, it's fucking Miami, right?
Jimmy's the best player. That's the thing.
Yes.
Giannis was hurt, and Jimmy's the best guy out of everybody else.
These dudes are inevitable. The Miami Heat are indestructible. Eric Spoelstra is the best coach in the NBA. He keeps showing us that time and time again. And yeah, I mean, it's both Philly and Boston fans. I'm sure they would much rather have seen the New York Knicks. Obviously, Celtics have to win Game 7 for us to get there. I don't feel confident against the Miami Heat because of what happened last year. I feel confident about the Miami Heat because I think they got, even though, you know, what they're doing is crazy impressive. They're the 8 seed. They beat the 1 seed.
They were the 1 seed last year, yeah.
Yeah. I think my confidence in the Celtics against the Miami Heat team this year, the reason I have it is because I think the Celtics are a much better team than they were last year as far as personnel. Like they have better players now. They have a better offense. Their defense might be worse, but it seems like they're starting to figure that out. And then I think Miami's clearly worse than last year. They don't have Tyler Hero. They don't have Tyler Hero in this series. You know, some of their older guys are even older this year. K-Love, I don't think is much of a needle mover against a team like the Celtics. And then, you know, we've been talking about it every time we talk about this team, but Bam just really hasn't got over that hump. He's had flashes, but it really just is all Jimmy and some shooters. So we'll see.
It's gonna be fun. Tomorrow's gonna be fun. Let's get through tomorrow first. I don't need you. You don't need to think about Miami. You're locked in on Philly, locked in Boston. Game 7s again. Unfortunately for you, you just can't avoid these Game 7s the last couple of years, man. Like it'd be nice if you could just, you know, get a nice 5-game series in the second round or just one of those. That'd be cool. But nope, Here we are, another one. And it's Philly, got to be Philly too, right? This is a big Embiid moment. We haven't talked about it really from the Philly side at all. Big Embiid. Honestly, this is the defining moment of Embiid, of Doc, and of Harden's career in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Because they are as good as this Boston team on paper. It is just, I don't trust the infrastructure. I don't trust their metal. They've matched them in where they've needed to match them, but it comes down to it. They had the chance to close them out, didn't. Where do you stand now as the guys who have never closed anybody out? Can you do it, or are you just going to be those guys for the rest of your life? And they might be those guys. There has to be there in NBA history. There are always those guys, those great players who just couldn't even sniff the finals. Dame Lillard, a guy that we talk about all the time, is one of the perfect modern examples. But there's all sorts of people that you could go back through time and be like, damn, that guy was awesome. Just he never got out of the second round, and that might be Embiid, and that might be Embiid. Like I know he's gotten to a conference spot, whatever, but like he just this is it. Like this, you are the MV fucking P. This is where you have to go on the road and shut up that Boston crowd. Otherwise, like get out of here, man. I can't take you seriously in these situations. This is it. And Harden, we already kind of know, but like when I talk about him as a legacy, it's like you can change your legacy tomorrow. You could be, if you go 35 and 10 and 10 again, all of a sudden people are talking about James Harden differently, like especially because they'll be the favorites going into the final. Everything else, James Harden's career is looked at differently. And Doc, I don't know, we don't have to talk about Doc. We know what he has choked so many fucking times, and especially has one of the worst chokes ever with this Philly team. He won't survive if they lose tomorrow.
I don't think so.
I think Doc is the Milwaukee coach also, by the way. I think he's already signed up.
Whoa, that'd be very interesting.
I don't think it's Nick Nurse. I think it's Doc.
That would be extremely interesting. Yeah, man. I think last thing, I think as far as for Philly goes, I think it's James Harden, and whatever James they get tomorrow is going to be the deciding factor. I think.
I agree,
because we've seen it this whole series, right? You know, they were able to win one game.
But that's because Maxey, and Maxey, I guess you could throw in too. If one of them scores 30, like
Right.
It's huge.
Because we know what Joel is getting.
Mhm.
We can say the Celtics have done a good job in particular parts of this series, but
Yeah.
that doesn't mean that he's not going to get 30 and 10 every game, because that's what he's going to do.
Yeah. And I think they're okay with that. I think they're okay with that. Yeah.
They'll get their pivotal stops down the stretch, but it's really going to come down to James Harden, which guy shows up. I'm hoping game 6, James Harden shows up again, obviously, for the Celtics case, but we'll see. I mean, tomorrow's going to be electric. Mother's Day, mid-afternoon, game 7.
Thank God there's only one game. Why did they set all the games up on Mother's Day? Like, who are they? Why are they trying to do that to people? That's so rude. Thank you. I don't know either.
Yeah,
I was very confused.
Adam Silver.
It's like, we got
Silver,
Saturday.
What the hell are you doing?
I mean, I guess, is there hockey on tonight? There's got to be like a couple games on, but that's got to be the only, like, why are there no Saturday NBA games today? I don't know. It's weird. Yeah, there's got the Kraken and Stars, and I think that's it. I think it's Kraken Stars.
Just at 7 p.m. tonight.
Yeah. Did Edmonton or Vegas win last night? Do you? Because I never checked.
Vegas won.
Fucking fuck.
I know it's a basketball podcast, but that is one of the better jersey matchups I've seen in a while in that series.
That gold against the Edmonton white. Oh,
yeah,
it is beautiful. I just don't want, as a Sabres fan, yes, basketball podcast, but the thought of a Jack Eichel-led Vegas team versus a Sam Reinhart-led Florida team, both the teams that they just traded last year in the finals, would be miserable. Even though I really want Florida to win the cup at this point, but it would hurt. So just come on, Kraken, Edmonton, figure it out, somebody. Anyways,
and there you go. There was our hockey.
And and once Boston wins this game 7 tomorrow, we are only one series away from something I've dreamed about since I met you and our mutual friend Brett, a LeBron James versus the Boston Celtics NBA Finals. We did get one series. We've gotten one series. It was like 7-game classic in 2018. So if it's anything like that, it will just be the most dramatic series of all time, because it'll be Lakers Celtics in the finals.
And I think this series, I would love that. We all know how much both of us would love that.
It'd be great.
It would be gut wrenching. I'd be pulling out my hair. I'd be crying. I'd be jumping with glee. It'd be everything. It'd be all the emotions. But the Lakers have a tall task themselves, and that was kind of a pun at Jokic, but kind of just this series and these two teams, it's going to be a heavyweight battle, man.
So here's my theory quick on it. If AD, who his new nickname is Alternating Days, which is a great nickname. If he can cancel out Jokic has trouble with AD his whole career. Like, AD has dominated Jokic in some games. They really go at each other very well. If those two cancel each other out, then it's just LeBron James versus everybody else. And if that happens, if AD could get to that level and equal Jokic, which sounds insane because Jokic is, after watching him, I mean, I watched the Nuggets a lot this year. We all thought he probably should have been MVP, but figured he wouldn't be. Now watching him on this playoff run, there's no doubt in my mind he is like the best player in the league, and it'll be hard for me to convince anybody. Like, Giannis is the only other person I'll probably consider, but just what Jokic is doing right now, AD might not be able to match him. Like, it just might not happen. And they do have a lot of different guys to throw at Bron, like whether it's a bigger guy like Gordon, a faster guy like KCP. Like, just they're gonna have Bruce Brown, like a little pest that could do, like, they have a lot of options. It's that series is just going to be very interesting. Jeff Green's, Jeff Green's having 28 in game 3 or something like that. Like,
he's going to have some sort of battle with LeBron in this series. It's inevitable, man. It's inevitable.
But the chess match is going to be awesome in that series, I think.
Yeah, it's just it's going to be super entertaining, because I think we saw the Nuggets, how they were able to beat Phoenix was literally just that they had an answer for everything. They have the size. They have Gordon, who they can throw at Durant and bother him.
Swiss Army knife Gordon, Jesus.
Yeah, and it's I don't know. It just seems like both these teams kind of figured out how good of a roster they actually have in these playoffs. Like, the Lakers, it's been fun to watch because we were like, okay, yeah, these trade acquisitions were really good for the Lakers, when they made them at the deadline, and this team is much, much better now. and it's even enhanced since the playoffs have started. You're like, oh my god, this team is huge. Like the Lakers
Yeah.
are a massive team.
They're a bully.
Yeah, they have Anthony Davis. They have LeBron. Obviously, you know, those guys are just crazy.
That's a great front line defensively as it is. Yeah.
Yeah, freaks of nature. Just, you know, as soon as they step on the court, and then everything that comes with that.
And Reeves, dude, Reeves is just.
That's what I was gonna say. Austin Reeves and D'Lo are bigger guards.
Yeah,
and they're out there. You have Rui, like they have all these bodies that it's going to be very interesting just to see. And I described it this way because I think it's literally just going to be a heavyweight battle. Like we might have some low scoring games, which doesn't seem like you would with the star power on the court, but this might just be a dogfight of these two teams. And I think you're right. I think it's going to come down to if AD can cancel out or bother Jokic during this series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, AD is. Yeah, it's going to be, that matchup is going to be very interesting. And I like the way you say it as like a bullying like type thing, because that's what LeBron and the Lakers are going to, they're going to slow this pace to a halt. LeBron is going to take up 20 seconds on the shot clock every time. Like that's what the Lakers do in these series. That was what their the Cavs strategy was against the Warriors. The high powered Warriors was, we're going to take shot clock. We're going to make these games slow, fewer possessions, and hope that our bigs, LeBron and AD, can just bully. And so I think you're dead on with that. Anything else before we go?
I think that's I did want to say when we talked about the Heat, I meant to mention this, but the Julius Randle shit, dude, I honestly feel bad, bro. He deserves
it is too much.
He deserves criticism, of course. Like he played super poorly. He, you know, and this is something Stephen A. Smith pointed out. Not only when he plays bad, he has the worst body language you've ever seen.
100%.
And it's infectious because he's one of your team leaders. He's at times the best player on your team. He was an all-star. He was an all-NBA guy this year. And when he gets like that, it must be tough for the rest of the team to get up. On the other hand, Knicks fans, I just explained to you how good he was for you this year. He was all-NBA. He was an all-star. And then after the game, Knicks fans take to the streets. They're ripping down his posters that are on the side of the arena. They're writing "Trade Me" on his posters that are on the outside of the arena. They're stomping on them. You know, it's just you have to wonder, like, even if the organization doesn't want to trade him next season and they want to roll with Randle again, why in the hell would he want to play for this team after, you know, and of course, fans will be fans and players have to deal with this all the time, but just the way it ended for the Knicks and then him having to see all this and having to be talked about on TV for the whole summer, and then to have your fans not even have your back after you have your best season of your career. He must be in a tough place. It's
tough. Like you said, the criticism is deserved, but to a point, like, come on, like what, like, don't be just blatantly disrespectful like that. Yeah, like this is a guy, like you said, was all NBA talent, literally wouldn't be in this position without him. Yes, he disappointed. Yes, it's also a very difficult matchup against one of the best defensive players in all of basketball, Bam Adebayo, that he had to deal with the whole time. So maybe we should give him, you know, a little bit of grace with that too. I'm not a Julius Randle fan, but I agree with you. It's too far, and it's my biggest problem. That's why I'm not a Knicks fan at all. The Knicks are one of my most disliked teams in the association. It's things like this. Like, this is the best run you guys have had in years, and that's how you're going to treat a guy who led you there. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, you should be appreciative of the run that you guys have had because it hasn't happened in a long time. As somebody who has not watched a lot of playoff sports from his favorite teams over his life, you should appreciate those moments when they happen because they are fleeting, and a Knicks fan of all people should understand that. So those are a lot of people too that are caught up in the hype that aren't real fans. They're just people that are, like, you know, jumping on probably at the end. I would hope hardcore Knicks fans wouldn't think that that's appropriate response, but who knows?
Yeah, man. So this place is, we're just getting out of the second round, and the playoffs have already given us some crazy.
Yeah, man. We still got the fucking conference finals, which in my mind, I like better than the NBA finals half the time, because to get to the finals sometimes is a bigger war than once you get to the finals, because sometimes those matchups are just, you're going to know. But man, these conference finals, especially if it's Lakers, Nuggets, and Heat, like we said, Heat versus whoever these two teams, Boston or Philly, just the Jimmy Butler part of it with Philly would be insane. And then obviously last year's conference final rematch, you say less about that. Game 7 last year.
Yeah.
Can't wait. Can't wait.
It's crazy, man. NBA fans all over the world must be going gray, losing their hair.
Oh man,
developing other
and great markets too. Like Lakers, obviously the biggest market in the world. Denver is an awesome basketball market and just a huge market in the U.S. And then obviously Boston, Philly, Miami. Like, you can't go wrong anyway. It's just gonna be fun. Anything else before you go?
I think that's it, man. We're in a great time here.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, game 7. I'm going to repost this again tomorrow. So if you're listening to this on Sunday afternoon, right before the game, this is our parting words. It was always Celtics in 7. I've been saying it for a while.
It was always the Celtics in 7. You're damn right, Jake.